Hello, everyone, and we are live. Welcome to Tomorrow's America. My name is Richard Donahue, and I'm here with my co host, William Donahue. Today, a lot of news has happened. First of all, Iran has declared war on the United States along with the West, and we bombed Venezuela yesterday. There's a lot to talk about. Benjamin Netanyahu is in house in the United States trying to talk to our senators, our congressmen about what? We'll figure that out in this episode. So, Will, what do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is in the United States for?
I think that he's in the United States for what he's always in the United States for, and that's to get more funding, to push us to promote anti Semitism laws, and to send our young men to go die in the Middle East for his country.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a problem that a lot of young people have noticed over the last year, and especially since Trump's been in office when we bombed Fordo. We are coming to Israel's aid about everything. I said this in episode one, if you have seen it. We spent $10 trillion in the Middle East since 2000, right? So when you consider that, that's almost a third of our national debt. Okay, that is not okay. We spent almost a third of our national debt on a neoconservative war that just alienated us from a whole region of the world, the Middle East. You know, that's one of the most important regions in the entire world when it comes to oil, when it comes to how many people live there,
Trade.
south trade routes, the Suez Canal, which we can get into the canal that they want to use going through Gaza. But you know that's another thing that they're trying to do in the Greater Israel Project. But you know this isn't okay. Originally, when I was talking to Will about starting this about today, he told me that Iran has declared war on the West along with the United States. Now, what do you think that actually entails?
Me?
Yeah.
I think that uh, I think that it was rhetoric, kind of, but I don't think that their countries operate the same way that we do, where we have to declare war through Congress. Um, e- Even in Muslim culture, if one of their ayatollahs says something, uh, or one of their imams or whatever says something, it is it Muslim culture is not a religion; it's an ideology. So
Yeah.
for them, that's a jihad that they have to carry out for spiritual whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to go back to what we originally said because you asked me a question and I gave you a very blunt answer about why I think Netanyahu was here.
Yeah.
What was the statistic about the money we've sent since 2000?
$10 trillion in wars.
$1 million. So, um, Netanyahu after 9/11 came over trying the same thing to get us into war, all for all these reasons. And he came over and lied about weapons of mass destruction and got us into a war that lasted longer than a decade, I believe.
Yep.
And many Americans went over and fought and died. So I think it's very important to be cautious, err on the side of caution whenever Israel comes over and tries and tell our politicians that any country is 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb or any of these sorts of things. And that's pretty much, you could watch like 30 clips over the last 2 decades of the same old song and dance, trying to get funding from us and boots on the ground over there. So today, actually, when we talked a few days ago, I said, "Oh boy, Netanyahu's coming to visit. He's going to try and get us into war with Iran."
Yep.
And I guess Iran took it upon themselves to do it first because we're going to talk about Venezuela. We're going to talk about the Iran, and we're going to talk about probably the Congo bombing too. But
Mhm.
Venezuela, Iran, and China is the other layer that is using Iran as a proxy, and Iran is using Venezuela as a proxy, and also it implicates some of our United States politicians. But I'm not too sure what the whole Iran thing is about, but I do know that another quagmire in the Middle East is not going to be good for this country, and that striking Venezuela is only going to gin up funding from foreign countries to come in and back them, and then we'll probably get a proxy country nearby, and it'll just be another front of the already global conflict that we're experiencing uh, in American politics.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that is to worry about. Is this? Remember, we vote Donald Trump in as the peace president. You know, he's we're gonna focus on domestic issues,
Yep.
no new wars, right? That is his whole thing. No new wars. We're gonna focus on domestic. We're gonna get your gas prices down. We're gonna get your egg prices down. The housing prices are gonna go down. Well, what have we actually gotten since he's come into office? You know, and this is hard for me because I did support him, but we've gotten bombing Fordo. We bombed a terrorist organization on Christmas Day in Nigeria. We have just did our first inland strike on Venezuela. So those are three conflicts with three separate nations. You know what I mean? Three separate nations, three separate continents. We're all over. You know what I mean? So
Right.
when we're in this no new wars. Well, what happened to that, President Trump? I get that he has neoconservative people in his ear, and I'm sure that they have a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we can't really understand, we can't predict, and I'm not here to predict that. But what I'm here to say is it's not okay. You know, we as the American people over the last 40, 50, 60 years, honestly, since JFK's assassination, have voted on false claims and false promises that the American politicians have promised us, and it's not okay. We have been promised all of this stuff, and it's almost to the point where now politicians will make so many lies and so many lies, and then when you actually get them in the office, there's so many different things that's impossible to even happen, that all of these claims, there's not a single president in the last 30 years that's actually had at least like 60%, and that's a problem. You know what I mean? So first of all, another thing that stresses me out is Venezuela is in the American sphere of influence. You know, they're in South America, but they have been aligned with Russia, China in the East because of their dictatorship.
Right.
Is this just a ploy for oil? Like, I don't understand. It's clearly not actually about the drugs. It's not about the drug boats. They're actually like sinking fishing vessels allegedly. You know, this is all alleged, but they're sinking fishing vessels. They're sinking these drug boats, and now they're inland striking. So, are we almost trying to push them into like a false flag? Because in American history, we've had a lot of false flags. Just one that comes to mind that's 100% proven is when we said Spain shot down our submarine or our ship. And then we started the Spanish American War where we took a lot of their colonies. So that's just one that comes to mind that's absolutely proven and actually taught in schools. So is this just a false flag to try to get us into a war and change a regime, or are we just trying to get oil out of them? Like, honestly, Will, I'm very confused.
Uh, in my opinion, I would agree with you that it's most likely not about the drugs. One major thing that kind of gives it away is if you blew boatloads of fentanyl into the ocean, probably wouldn't be very smart. So makes you kind of have to wonder what exactly the thought process is behind blowing up boats with huge containers of fentanyl. Also, uh, I know that the Trump administration is looking into election fraud, and Dominion voting systems is based out of Venezuela. Uh, so there's a lot probably that could be said about that because, like you said, China and other foreign countries are uh, laundering money through Venezuela, and they have a lot of interest there. So, and I mean, essentially, let's just say the 2020 election was stolen. That's my personal belief.
Mhm.
Uh, that's almost like we partially would have been conquered by a Chinese proxy for 4 whole years. Also, Venezuela, up until their newest leadership, was like the richest country per capita in the world, and they had a lot of money and a lot of influence. So I think that now that Venezuela isn't doing so good, they're looking to maintain those influential ties and kind of get involved with China's aspirations for laying siege on America,
Mm.
I guess. It's probably a pretty complex situation, but for the most part, I do know that there are Venezuelan whistleblowers coming out. There's a guy, he was a former CIA high level operative that came out as a whistleblower when Obama tried to set up Hillary Clinton and bribe her in the 2016 election. So he came out and blew the whistle on that. Since then, a lot of people who want to blow the whistle have viewed him as a trustworthy source. So we, during the Biden administration, captured some of Maduro's enemies within the Venezuelan military,
Mm.
and they want to speak and rat on the Maduro regime. And Patrick Byrne has been working with these people. The Biden administration ignored them and said that their claims had no validity. But I know Patrick Byrne believes and has faith in them. So, I think that Venezuela, in a way, it is a mixed bag of beliefs and global foreign policy. Maduro almost didn't even get into the presidency.
Mm.
He actually, what happens in Venezuela is the elections happen, then the next day they say, "Oh, look, it was 55% to this party and 45 here. So close, but Maduro won." Well, something didn't work right. Somebody within the system didn't get that ratio right. And it started coming out where the other party was winning. So they just shut down the voting. And I don't know if people remember, but all of South America was not going to recognize Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela to begin with. So I think really there's some conflicts there. And maybe, I don't know, just looking at it geopolitically, how I would do things, I guess, is like if you had an opportunity to seize on the weakness of another country and eliminate them from aiding our biggest competitor, China, maybe the Trump administration views that as a win-win situation, But
Yeah.
I,
Well,
like I said, I don't like our young men and women even posturing where we have naval fleets,
yeah.
around the country. That's just setting us up for potentially, being in harm's way. So I don't like it. I also don't think we should be weak on the world stage. So it's
Mm.
kind of questionable for me right now. But I do know that the official story behind it really doesn't make more sense, and that the Trump administration could do a lot better with their messaging.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what has happened when I think back to the Iran conflict. They didn't really tell the public anything. That's
Yeah.
kind of what the Trump administration has done
They
and proven to us over the last 11 months when it comes to the Epstein files or Iran and now Venezuela. They don't really have full transparency when that's kind of what they ran on was transparency in the government. They have this belief that we should go and believe in the GOP and believe that they're going to do the right thing all the time. But the problem is they're not. When you look at all of our congressmen, especially with all of the special interest money, when you look at the money that Trump has taken from all of these billionaires now in his second term, which I really don't like compared to his first term, where he
Yeah.
ran on I'm spending my money. We're gonna tear this whole thing down. That's why everyone was so built around him, and he actually did win as a populist.
Right.
But yeah, now I mean he has all of these special interests in his ear. He has all these neoconservatives in his ear. He has Benjamin Netanyahu coming and telling him what's going on in the Middle East. And with when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, that guy should be in jail. You know what I mean? This guy has been a part of Israel's government since 1995. He predicted the World Trade Center dropping. He said that the World Trade Center was going to fall. He said it in 1995, 1996, sometime in the 1990s. He said that. So
Um,
explain to me how you can predict an event to that caliber. It doesn't make sense to me, Will. It really doesn't.
I I know that, like you said, America has a history of being involved in false flags with the rumors of knowing about uh, Pearl Harbor, and scheduling an airplane flyover drill on the same day. The USS Liberty, like you said, the Spanish American War,
Mhm.
even the sinking of the Lusitania for World War One. That's how we got drug into World War One.
Mhm.
I wanted to go back to what you said about Israel. The first thing that you started off with. What were you saying?
About Israel,
Yeah, I
um,
apologize.
you're good. When I first started talking about Israel, I was saying how geez, I don't even remember. it was something along the lines of basically Benjamin Netanyahu and what he's doing now. It's almost like how in 1995 he was saying the same stuff about the nuclear sites with Iran. He was saying that they are weeks away from a nuclear bomb. They are weeks away from a nuclear bomb. And to get on a side tangent, just while you recalibrate your thoughts, well, where did they get their nuclear bombs from? Because they still haven't tested a nuclear bomb. We told them JFK went and said we're going to check your nuclear sites every 6 months. Right before he got assassinated, we're going to check them every 6 months. You cannot have a nuclear bomb. Then he gets assassinated, and then what? 9 months later, they get a nuclear weapon. See, it doesn't make sense. So they're the biggest hypocrites in all of the world, but at least the Middle East.
We're just starting the show off. I kind of remembered when you talked that I said I was going to get a notepad, so we'll just skip over that. But definitely, if you look at Israel's policy, they have the Samson option, it's called. And Samson is a Bible book where he was tied up and he was, about to get killed. So he just used all his strength to pull the entire building down on top of himself. And that's their nuclear policy in Israel, is that if America and Europe doesn't come to their aid, they'll use the Samson option and just go scorched earth on all these countries. So they could hold us with a nuclear weapon basically to our head as hostages, where we have to run and go defend them no matter what. Uh, but they won't sign any nuclear proliferation treaties, and neither has Iran. And it's pretty hypocritical of them to expect another country to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. You're muted, bro. So,
Sorry, I was trying to. Hello, can you hear me?
yep.
All right, sorry, I was trying to fix some audio. There's some crackling, sounds like popcorn. You know, to just really take a quick break for a second. This is our second show, so we are still working on the technology, but we are slowly putting it all together, and we'll have something really special soon enough. But sorry, what you just finish on?
I was just talking about the nuclear proliferation treaty. Hey guys, tomorrow, episode 3 is coming out, and I'm gonna go deep dive
Yep.
into the Nick Shirley video that I'm sure everyone has seen, and the um the
Somalians.
the Somalians and the fraud and potential implications of other almost mafia level crimes taking place in the state of Minnesota. So you're definitely going to want to watch that. So we pretty much covered Venezuela, and I think that as mysterious as things are, our coverage so far is about as good as you're going to get without, making stuff up or falling for. I hate to say it, but like I said, the Trump administration has failed massively in messaging. And, if we don't hold our own party accountable for the things that they say and the promises that they made and broke, then we're just becoming the thing that we set out to destroy with the left, where they're have this hive mindset. So I encourage everyone to not only be critical of the Trump administration, but be critical of me. When I say something, go look it up. I'm pretty good at getting the receipts, and this is a live format show, so I can't really show all the receipts. But fact check me. Go look these things up because critical thinking is one of our main goals here. And if we're wrong, I'd like to have people be able to debate us. If anyone's interested in coming on and debating us and you think differently than we do, that'd be great because uh, the conversation needs to be had. Not only war conversation or party line conversation or demographic, conversations about what's going on. The conversation needs to be had with everything because everything has come to such a head that, basically both parties just ignore everything that the other side says. And we have like these two echo chambers that really doesn't help because we can never get anything solved.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I agree with that. Conversation is key. That is one of the top ways that I view political violence can end. Obviously, there's different powers and different nations that could be involved in assassinations or attempts, but I think that from just the random person, just talking it out is such a simple way. And I mean, we have so many rights in this country to utilize your rights is really what people should be doing. But just to get back on to what we were talking about earlier, yeah, definitely be critical. And I agree with Will where you should fact check me as well, and I would love for someone to come on and debate us. That would be great. But the U.S. government and the GOP, this is why you can't just go along with them. You know what I mean? The GOP is masterful at propaganda. You think propaganda is a negative. You think propaganda is only for fascists like Nazi Germany and like World War II propaganda and all this stuff. No, propaganda could be good, bad. Propaganda is everywhere. News
Yeah.
is propaganda. We're having our own propaganda in a way. So the GOP's propaganda that they are spewing to us is very powerful. And I fell victim to it in 2024 where I saw, wow, this is Trump. He's saying that God spared him to make America great, and that we are going to go into the golden age of America. He's going to lower gas prices. We're going to make America affordable again. We're going to tax other countries with using the tariffs, which obviously the economic policy, we could get into that another day. But I fell for this propaganda just like a lot of people did. And now people are waking up to it when specifically he said no new wars. And that's kind of what the whole show has been about. No new wars. Well,
Right.
obviously, we've had some wars and we've had some conflicts. He said that he was going to be able to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict in a day, just like that. Well, it's not that easy now, is it? When Ukraine wants to get all of their territory back and Crimea and still have a military. When Russia wants Crimea, which they already have had occupied since 2014, they want the 3 Donbass regions that they control, and they want Ukraine to demilitarize. So it's not that easy, and I think that's a main reason why President Donald Trump has said he's ended 8 conflicts, because he has gone in and said Israel Palestine, that'll be ended in a day. Russia Ukraine, that'll be ended in a day. Well, Israel Palestine, which is really Israel Hamas, has not necessarily ended, but a ceasefire has been brought to the table, and they've accepted it in October. But the people in Gaza still don't have food. Still, the people in Gaza have so many buildings destroyed. You know what I mean? So, like, it's an ongoing conflict, is what I'm trying. But the thing that sketches me out is obviously the Suez Canal. But, well, can you refresh my mind? Do you know his name starts with Ben? His first name is Ben, the first Prime Minister of Israel.
What's that? The former prime minister?
Yeah, the first one, Benjamin Gorin. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I can't really put my finger on it. I know Ehud Barak was the prime minister, and he's really influential over there. Do I sound all right, Rich?
Yeah, I'm just here. I just muted you and unmuted you. There is a popcorn and everything, but that honestly
You
could be just
sound
on my end. But I'm just gonna say the Ben Canal, because obviously I can't remember.
you sound pretty bad too, Rich.
Is it on my end?
Yeah.
Oh shoot! All right. Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, it definitely is on my end, because when you talk, it's very static. But it's okay.
It's still come closer. Come closer.
Is it static when I talk?
Yeah.
Well,
Why don't you
we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and as we take a break, hopefully you can hear me. We're just going to try to fix our technical difficulties, but we will be right back. We'll be right back. Hello.
sound good?
All right. Yep. It is. It is a lot better now. So good. All right. Well, back to what I was saying. The West wants to create their own Suez Canal. It's the peninsula right there in between Egypt and Israel. That actually Israel controlled the Sinai Peninsula during the 6 Day War. So they have the Suez Canal, which is a man-made canal. Okay, it's just like the Panama Canal. It's so we can get Mediterranean to the Red Sea, and obviously Egypt has access to it. It's in their country. And Israel wants to create their own, and they don't want to share the wealth with Palestine. So their overall bigger plan, and this is a theory, obviously, it's all hypothetical. Overall bigger plan is to annex Gaza and end up making a canal through Gaza. Because if you use it through Gaza, obviously you'd have to share the wealth.
Right.
So they don't want to do that. So also this is a reason why we might still be giving them so much foreign aid, and why our congressmen can not agree on anything except for giving foreign aid packages to Israel when it's like a 400 to 20. It's like ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yes, they want to make this canal, and if they make this canal, it'll make them a very rich country, and it'll also help out the West because they don't have to go through Egypt and deal with the Somali pirates.
Now they call that the IMEC corridor, right?
Yeah.
So the Israeli government wants to build the IMEC corridor, a trade route from the east to the west, and at the same time, China is competing for that area as well through their proxies in the Middle East for what's called the Belt and Road Initiative. So you have two competing plans, and I liked that you said that Israel's plan is, allegedly their plan or what they plan on carrying out. I think something that kind of uh, makes it a fact, for me at least, is that the Israeli soldiers actually wear a Greater Israel patch on their shoulder that shows the nation of Israel taking more territory than they have right now. So it's pretty obvious what they plan to do, considering that their whole military wears the patch. But I do respect that you say allegedly, just because that's how lawsuits happen or whatever. But
Exactly.
yeah, the Middle East is being torn apart by two superpowers that don't even live in the region, but we're competing for one, a beachhead, which is just military advantage to have an alliance like Israel in the Middle East, so that we can share in the oil resources that they have, and also have our trade route and access from Europe and all of our partners to have trade routes into the West that we control. And the East wants a trade route into the East that they control. And I guess, they say like the age of conquering and all that stuff is, an old thing that Americans and Europeans used to do. It's still happening. Borders change all the time. Don't fall for that narrative that Europeans are conquerors. Uh, there's conquering that's still going on now. Um, what do we want to do, Rich? Do we want to go into the next conflict?
I mean, I'm down to go one more topic, a quick one, just to get our thoughts. But yeah, I mean, I view this as a very successful pod. We've gotten a lot of information out. I view that we got a pretty good one going here. So we might as well add to it. Yeah,
I'm just gonna hammer out the Nigerian conflict.
yeah,
Uh,
just
do you,
pound it.
do you want to touch? Why don't you lead us up and say what the Trump official narrative is as to why we went into Nigeria?
Yeah, no, for sure, I can do that. So basically, what Trump is saying is that these groups in Nigeria, and it's the Nigerian government as a whole, but these groups in Nigeria, they've been just killing Christians, and if you're a Christian in Nigeria, you're going to get assassinated, you're going to get slaughtered, and just to put it frank, you're not going to survive. You cannot be a Christian in Nigeria. Now, this is a common thing around this area of the world. It's a very Muslim area. Okay, so it's not all on Nigeria. It's not all on their government. Although some of these groups are involved with the government, but we can even look at Mexico and the cartel. Half of Mexico's government is a part of the cartel. So
Right.
the Trump narrative is that we just bombed specific areas of their top leaders of ISIS. They say it's ISIS. ISIS is a part of everything. ISIS was a part of the killing in Australia, the horrific killing on the first day of Hanukkah. ISIS is a part of everything. So they're saying it was a big part of ISIS that was killing Christians and slaughtering them to any Christian they could find. The entire villages of Christians just eliminated. So they said that we saved Christianity and we were helping save Christians with this. And how ironic that they did it on Christmas, the day that we celebrate Jesus' birth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the official narrative from the administration, and I'd love to believe that because I got my cross here. I'm a Christian. I, think that a government protecting Christians is great.
Yeah.
I think that it's in our interest. I think that it's with American values. So it almost checks all the boxes until you look into the political dynamic of Nigeria. So in Nigeria, there's three main terrorist groups, and one of them is ISIS tied, but they're the weakest one. So the one in the specific areas that we targeted was the weakest one, and was also a competitor of some of the bigger terrorist groups. And one of the main terrorist groups is directly involved with um, the government of Nigeria. So if the government of Nigeria is advising, because they officially approved, there's no conflict between the U.S. and Nigeria because the Nigerian government approved Trump's strikes on these groups. But at the same time, the group that approved the advice is competitors with the other terrorist group, and I if this ended up getting out to where somebody in the Trump administration or Pentagon could hear this, I caution you to pay attention to who's advising you and what their potential plans are, because we may be taking out the enemies of another terrorist group and essentially just helping a terrorist group that's ultimately going to still continue to persecute Christians, just uninhibited by this other group that they don't align with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
And
know,
I wonder why they approve the strikes. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's something that they teach us in school. You got to look into people's motives.
that would be very convenient. I'm not sure if any of the audience watches any of the old James Bond movies, but Spectre, the head intelligence that he had Russian spies and British spies and Mossad and CIA, and everyone was double agents and they're all crisscrossing each other. Well, basically, agent number five or whatever walks in the room and they're trying to strategize how to take out another intelligence operation. And he says, "Hey, look at this." And he's got two beta fish in a tank, three beta fish. So the two beta fish fight each other, and the one dies, and the other one is tired and swimming around the tank, and that's when the third one comes in and kills the second one, because the third one was smart enough to know to sit back, let him destroy his enemy, and then get worn out, and then when he goes in, he could take out that one easily, and he'll have beaten both of them.
Yep.
So I urge the Trump administration to be cautious that we're not playing right into their agenda, uh, ultimately, because the same group that approved the strike also persecutes Christians.
Yeah, and I think that the Trump administration has realized that the people are fed up, and his approval numbers are not the best. We went
Uh,
into this presidency assuming that his approval numbers were always going to be high, and that he didn't really need to do anything. He could do the hard stuff, and have the independents and the leftists against him because of how many overwhelming supporters he had. It wouldn't matter, but it still is affecting him. So that's kind of why I believe that. Obviously, in episode 3, you go in depth on this, but I believe that that is why he's going so hard on the Somalis, and he's saying all of these, these drastic things that we've wanted him to say, and we've not really gotten the deportations that he was ranked so highly of. Everyone was so excited about the deportations, and why haven't we gotten them?
Yeah.
Like Obama has deported 5 million people over 8 years. Trump isn't nowhere near those numbers. Even in this term, allegedly we had 800,000 deportations, self deportations. Well, how exactly do self deportations work, and what exactly is that? I feel like at this point they're kind of just throwing out numbers, and I didn't expect this episode to have me bashing the GOP, but it's something that I have a problem with because as a young right wing male, this is the party that I align with the most. And I really do realize that all politicians, in a sense, the way that I like to say it, are bought out. And that's why I say special interest groups and PACs are the biggest problem to American democracy today, because how else are you supposed to have a democracy when what you vote for isn't getting done until your approval rating's going down? He's playing into the special interest, playing into the billionaires, all these people that give him the money. Let's make sure that they do what they need. Let's do corporate tax cuts, and then let's give U.S. veterans 1,776 as a rebate because we support our veterans. Now I support that full heartedly, but
It's a
what
stunt.
it is. It's so we can be like, oh, look at what he's doing for the veterans. Well, he
That's
also promised us no income tax and a $5,000 rebate.
Yeah, that's what I was. Remember earlier when I stumbled over my words? That's what I was going to say is that the Trump administration is so desperate for messaging that they're latching on to all these dumb little things as wins, and they're getting caught lying about wins. You mentioned the Somali issue in Minnesota. Cash Patel just latched on to the kids, the feeding the kids, feed
Yep.
more kids or whatever
Yeah.
scandal. But the Biden administration brought that down in 2022 for being fraudulent about using COVID funds. They were supposed to provide meals for kids. Cash Patel came out. See, what happened was Nick Shirley posted his video, and then Cash Patel ran to Twitter and said, "Oh my God, the FBI is doing so much. We already caught $250 million in fraud." Well, guess what? That wasn't under him. That was under the Biden administration. And the gimmicky desire to just get any win, any check mark column for Trump administration. They're just really desperate, and it shows. It is a little disheartening for somebody who supported Trump avidly and actually you put your reputation on the line when you support these people, and you don't expect them to lie to you, especially when the whole country's waking up and trying to seek truth and get justice and reform, and all we ended up with was a bunch of half measures, and you know Trump tore down the oligarchy and became the leader of it, and it's a little sad, but
Yeah, no, 100%. I have heard what you were saying. Obviously, we're dealing with technical difficulties. My phone just overheated and died. So, we're working on stuff, but you know how it is. Yeah, I honestly, Cash Patel, he's another guy that's really disappointed me. He came out and said, we have to release these Epstein files and all of this stuff. And
oh yeah,
He's
he wrote the book on government gangsters.
Yep, exactly. Now the problem that I realize, and that I like to use, right? I use this word a lot, and I like it. I like this terminology because it's something that's so broad yet so specific. Cash Patel is compromised. Now, when I say compromised, it's something that can mean a lot of different things, but compromise means that he's not going off of his own free will and he can't do what he wants to do. Now,
Yeah.
and when I specifically say compromised, Trump is compromised.
Yep.
Thomas Massey, Ted Cruz, all of these top-ranking congressmen compromised. All of them. You know who's not compromised? Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I think that she dropped out of her position because she's looking for something bigger in 2028. Now, I'm not here to say she is up for the task or isn't. Obviously, that's something that needs to happen closer to the primaries. But I think that she is someone who is not compromised, and she is someone who has covered up for this administration's tracks. And
Yep.
She
never gave up on her own morals.
Mhm.
And real quick, just to add something to what you're saying, I think that it's obvious that some of these people are compromised, because why else would Dan Bongino do a complete 180 as soon as he gets in, lie about a bunch of stuff, and then almost get out of being leadership role in the FBI, which he fought so hard for. But once he wasn't able to do the things he said he was going to do, his reputation's on the line. Well, guess what, Dan? You should have quit the second that they told you to say that you saw a video of Epstein killed himself. You should have just been like, no, I'm not doing it. If you don't want me to do it, that's your PR mistake. I quit. Because, essentially, you're going to try and claw back your audience. And a lot of people already gave up on you and you lost them. And that's America nowadays, is that we're not interested in being lied to or forgiving politicians. If you want to take on the responsibility of leadership, then you have the responsibility of leadership, and you're sworn oath to this country. And if you don't uphold your oath, then we don't want you, and we don't feel bad for you. And you should be punished if you do wrong, or impeached if you're just not living up to what we asked for. Because we pay for the government, and we are the government. We, the people, are the government.
Yep, it's almost like it's in the Constitution. We the people, they work for us. President Trump works for me, for you, for our families. These are people who work for the people. Yet it has turned into they work for special interests. They work for PACs. They work for money because they want to stay in power. Now, that's a bigger issue, because how are we going to vote people into power to end PACs and special interests when all the people in power have special interests in PAC money? That's something bigger that we will have to decide and talk about in a future episode. But it's something that really needs to happen. And before we end this episode, I really want to hit this home. I like to talk to AI a lot. Obviously it's a little weird. It's a little new. It's something that it's advanced so much, and it's honestly going to be our downfall. But I like it a lot. So I like to do calculations with it. One day I'm like, all right, well, how much money has the U.S. sent to Israel in foreign aid over just the last 5 years? And the specific number overall with bonuses and everything, I believe it was like $5-something billion, 5-point-something billion. So let's just say 5 billion, And then I said, okay, well, how many newborns were born in the United States in that same time period? Now, hear me when I say this. For all of the money that we sent to Israel in the last 5 years to fund their genocide that they had against Hamas, we could have given every family per kid $2,300, and we would have had some change left. Now, think about the problems that would solve. That solves immigration, because the reason that we have so many immigrants, the reason they're saying is, well, the population's going down. We have a dying population. Well, that solves that problem because you're getting birth grants and help, obviously. And it also solves the problem of, well, if we're not involved in foreign conflicts and foreign aid, I feel like we're going to be liked a lot more around the world. I don't think that we should be funding a genocide, especially when it's come out and it's official that what Israel was doing to Gaza is considered a genocide, yet we're funding it. So does that make Israel any better than us? Because they're doing it with our own money. And then on top of that, they'll put the money into our bonds and then get interest off of it. So what exactly are we doing with this relationship that is hurting us?
The inverse of what you're saying also is we send them all this money, but they're the richest per capita on average. Their citizens have the most money out of any average citizenry in the world. So their country, one, is the richest per capita, two, has free medical, three, has free college, and we're sending them all this extra aid that I think essentially, we have to take a look at the books and say, hey, hold on a minute. Can they do this themselves, or are we just enabling a monster? Are we creating a monster?
Yeah, we are creating one. I agree with you. Not to cut you off, but you almost said, I liked something that you said that made me think of subsidizing. It's almost like we subsidize them. And, when we were in talks of hypothetically buying Greenland, the country that runs it, Denmark, subsidizes Greenland $400 million a year. Now we subsidize Israel on average over the last 5 years, $5 billion a year. Now think about what we could do if we just put that money somewhere else. If we put that money, that $5 billion, somewhere into, and this is obviously 57,000 people and very, very off topic, but it just made me think about it. Like, we're wasting so much money to fund a genocide, like you said. It's not, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't.
Greenland would be a pretty strategic asset to own.
The North Passage, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess in closing, guys, make sure you like, share, follow, subscribe. Send this to every patriot that you're friends with, and also send this to anybody who might not exactly agree with us, because I think that this conversation type of podcast is easy for people to listen to, and we want to touch hearts and change minds. So please like and share this video. I thank you for watching us.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much. And just like he said, like and subscribe and comment. We love comments. And I just want to put this out there. At every episode, I like to say this. I love all people. I don't have problems with any people. All people are born good. There's no evil people in the world. It's just people that get corrupted over time. I love all people, and I love all countries. All countries are great. It's just, it's geopolitics,
Yep. So, you got to do what's right for America first, and America only.
Exactly. Yep. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you guys tomorrow for Tomorrow's America.